Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to everybody to this international summit, and thank you, Ernesto, for the invitation. So I'd like to share with you what is the situation of the commercial aviation sector from a company like Airbus. You know that we are today the leaders of the commercial aviation sector, and I would like to share with you some of the main challenges that we have to face in the coming years. Ernesto, you said in your intervention how important, and I think the commercial aviation sector is stronger than ever. We have a lot of challenges in the short term in order to deliver the increase of the demand that we have seen in the last years, but also how important is the development of the technologies that can be used in the aircraft or the future, and how important is the composite materials in our sector. So as I said before, the commercial aviation sector is stronger than ever. And we have seen, if you have the opportunity, I think the majority of you have the opportunity to travel by plane. So I think that you spend a lot of time in the airports, and you can see and you can feel by yourself how crowded are the airports everywhere, not only in our country, but also if you travel to Asia or Middle East, you can see that there's plenty of people everywhere. And this is because people need to fly. People want to travel. And this is something that we have seen after the pandemic, because traveling is a signal of prosperity, is a signal of freedom. I used to say that the world where we live today, it couldn't be the same without aviation, because aviation is connecting people. And this is a phenomenon that we have seen more and more after the pandemic. So that means at the end of the day, what we have seen is an increase of the demand everywhere. But also, I think that when we look at in a country like Spain, that you are visiting the airports, as I said before, you see a lot of people. But if you have the opportunity to travel to Asia, to the Middle East, so you see in some countries, what we have seen is a growing of the middle class. And one of the first things that the middle class want to do is to travel. It's because I said before, it's a matter of freedom, it's a matter of prosperity. And this is something also that is fostering the increase of the demand everywhere. In the recent analysis of the market that we have done in Airbus, we see and we think that in the coming years, in the next 20 years, we will need more than 43,000 aircraft. So this is an important amount of aircraft that be needed in the coming years. And to give you an order of magnitude, the backlog that we have today in Airbus, we are talking about more than 8,600 aircraft. I used to say here, if we make a mathematical calculation, the target of Airbus this year is to deliver 820 aircraft. So if we have a backlog of 8,600, more or less, we can talk about 9-10 years. I say 9 because our objective is to ramp up in all the programs, and that's the reason why we have to be able to deliver in the coming years more than 1,000 aircraft, and this is the backlog that we have today. And I was mentioning that we will ramp up in all the programs that we have in the commercial sector, in the case of Airbus Commercial. So to give you some order of magnitude, you know that we have the single-aisle family, starting for the A220. For the A220, the target of the company is to reach the rate of 12 aircraft per month in 2026. We have communicated yesterday that before it was 14, but yesterday we have communicated that it's going to be 12. In the A320, you know that this is the most famous aircraft that we have in Airbus. Talking about the family of the A320, the objective is to reach 75 aircraft per month in 2027, and to give you an order of magnitude where we are today, so we are around 60 aircraft per month. So we have to do an important ramp up in the coming years. If I move to the wide-body family, and here we have the A330 and also the A350. In the case of A330, so the target is to be at 5 aircraft per month in 2029. Today we are at 4, more or less, so you can think it's only 1 aircraft, but in terms of percentage, it's 25%, if we make that calculation. And then finally, talking about the A350, so the objective is to reach 12 aircraft per month in 2028. Also, to give you an order of magnitude of the situation today, we are at rate 7. So that means that we have to increase not the double, but almost the double in the wide-body family. So here in the A350 is where we have seen an important demand as well. So it was the case before in the case of the single-aisle family, but in the wide-body, what we have seen as well is an increase. We had a delay on the recovery of the air traffic because the situation between China and US, and that's the reason why this segment, the recovery was later than the single-aisle family. So, of course, to reach that level of production everywhere, we have to face several challenges. One of them is the situation of the supply chains all over the world. So it's a very complex sector, as you know perfectly, with a very complicated situation in the supply chain, having suppliers everywhere. The other day, I gave a figure in another event I participate, is that we have more than 18,000 suppliers over the world, and that means the complexity of constructing an aircraft or manufacturing an aircraft, and how important is that if we have to deliver those aircraft, all of us, we have to ramp up everywhere. So anyway, we are prepared in the case of Airbus in all the plants that we have in Europe, but also all the final assembly lines that we have in Hamburg, in Toulouse. But I think that you know as well that we have final assembly lines in US, final assembly lines in China. Recently, in the last month, in the month of October, last week, for example, we inaugurated the second assembly line for the A320 in China. And 2 weeks before, we inaugurated as well the second assembly line, or the second line in the final assembly line in US. So as you can see as well, is how important is the connection with the different countries. The other important key challenge that we have is if we have to make that ramp up, we need to have talented people. We need to have people. And so this creation of that talented people is another of the challenges that we have. And the other one that I mentioned, as you know, is the supply chain. To give you an order of magnitude of what is Airbus in Spain, so in total in all the divisions, because you know that a part of commercial aviation, we have an important division in Airbus, which is defense and space, and also helicopters. And as you said in the introduction, I started my career, or I spent the majority of my time in Airbus in defense and space. So the numbers of the level of employees that we have in Spain, in all the divisions, is more than 14,300 employees in Spain, in all the plants that we have. As you have mentioned some of them, Puerto Real, well, we used to say Cádiz because we are joining the two plants. So the plant that we have in Cádiz, in Illescas, in Getafe, but also we have in some facilities as well in Sevilla. But what is important is not the level of employees that we create internally in Airbus, but Airbus is an important company which is creating that ecosystem around us. So we are able to create, of these 14,000 employees, create another 60,000 employees in the supply chain. So we can say that for each employee that we create in Airbus, the supply chain is able, or the ecosystem is able to create 4.7 employees around us. The order of magnitude of the number of employees that we have in total in the company over the world is 140,000 people worldwide. So, and to give you an order of magnitude as well of how we have been increasing the number of employees in the last year. So since 2022, we have incorporated more than 2,500 people in our organization with the effect that I said before in the supply chain. So the majority of the recruitments that we have done during this period of time, as you can imagine, is engineering. Engineering because we have to face the demand of the aircraft, but also I will come back later to that point. We have to develop the technologies of the future, and then we are investing a lot in our engineering population. Digitalization, you can imagine as well, and you mentioned, Ernesto, in your introduction, how important is the manufacturing, the new technologies, the automation, robotization, and of course, digitalization. So some other profiles, such as manufacturing engineering, assembly and integration, structures and systems, IT, information technology, software design, so a lot of people. And talking about new technologies, for example, hydrogen and electrical propulsion are important as well, those skills. So, but as I said, this is the short-term, medium-term challenge that we have to face. We have to face and we have to deliver the aircraft that the customer are ordering. But at the same time, we have to start to develop the technologies that we have to use maybe in the next decade in the aircraft of the future. So in that case, it's very, very important the development of those technologies. It's very important that we can invest on R&D. So R&D is fundamental to develop those key technologies and to position us at the forefront and also enable us to face the competition, not the competition with other industries in that case, but with the main actors that we have in our sector. Not only the existing one, but we can imagine that in the next year we will have new actors as well coming here. I mentioned digitalization as well as a key technology to be developed. And of course, and that's the reason why we are here today, the innovation in composite material. So this is something that's very, very important. And this is the important role that FIDAM is playing in Spain. So Airbus, we used to work a lot with FIDAM. In fact, I have to say that I'm very proud to be the chairman of the board of trustees of FIDAM with a lot of company. Well, to make a little bit of history, FIDAM was created in 2007 in conjunction with the Spanish government and also with the community of Madrid. But since Ernesto joined as CEO of FIDAM, we have been able to incorporate some of the companies, because it's true that at the beginning was really focused on the aerospace sector. But in the last 2 years, we have been able to incorporate some other industries, because the role of FIDAM, or the purpose of FIDAM, is to develop the composite technology for the industry in general in Spain. So, well, with that, we are not only developing materials, we are not developing only technologies. At the same time, we are developing our people. So we are skilling up the people, we are learning, we are training professionals across the entire aerospace sector. So FIDAM, under my point of view, is an essential bridge between what we call the laboratory level to a more industrial level. So you are able to produce concepts like a fuel scale manufacturing things, and you have done a lot of things. So you have a big list, that, as you mentioned before, Ernesto. But I would like to mention how important is the automatic fiber placement, the ATM, or the job that you are doing in thermoplastic and preliminary industrial scale. And I would like to say that also when we see how it's going to be, or how it looks like the aircraft of the future, we think that there will be a lot of composite material in that aircraft, a part of the new engines that also we are trying to develop with another partners in the case of Airbus. So I'd like to finalize saying that we say in Airbus that we are going to live the fourth revolution, what we call the fourth revolution. The first one in our sector was to fly. So the human being wanted to fly. I say that many times, so I see some of our colleagues are smiling, because I think it's very important to say that. The second revolution is to fly safely. So safety, as you can imagine, and you know perfectly, is key in our sector. And the third revolution for us is the situation that we are living today, the democratization of the aviation. So some years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, flight was affordable only for not too many people. But today, as I said in the introduction of my intervention here, so everybody can afford to fly. And well, this was a big step change in our industry. The fourth revolution is the decarbonization of the aviation. Okay, so this is the evolution or revolution that we will see in the coming years. And for that reason, it's very, very important the development of new technologies to try to design the aircraft, because this is the main challenge that we have, all of us for the future. So thank you very much. Use the day as much as possible. Enjoy. I think it's a good moment to make connections, to network, to exchange with all the knowledge that we have, all of you in this room, to foster that innovation, to learn from each other. And I think it's a big moment to make a step change in the aviation sector, thinking on the future. So thank you very much, and have a good day.